Dear students, this video is the second part of the chapter, The Portrait of a Lady. In the first part, I taught you about the grandmother of the writer, her character. We came to know about his grandfather also. In this part, I will tell you how the relationship between the writer and his grandmother developed, how they start, how they develop, and how they came to an end also. Now starting from page number 4, from the second paragraph. The writer and his grandmother were good friends. His parents left him with her when they went to live in the city, and they were constantly together. She used to wake him up in the morning and get him ready for school. She said her morning prayer in a monotonous sing-song while she bathed and dressed him in the hope that he would listen and get to know it by heart. What does it mean? Means in the morning time, while bathing the narrator, she used to sing a monotonous song in a sing-song tone, means only for the purpose of singing in the same tone. The writer listened to her song because he loved her voice, and he never meant to learn it, although it was the grandmother's hope that her grandson would listen to her song and would learn it by heart. But the writer listened to her song but never bothered to learn it. And why did he listen to her song? Because he loved her voice. After then, she would fetch his wooden slate. What is fetch? Fetch means to go to bring. Wooden slate which she had already washed and plastered with yellow chalk, means the grandmother prepared all his stationery for school. A tiny earthen pot and a red pen. Tie them all in a bundle and hand it to him. Means why she made him ready for school. It was her daily work. She used to wake him up in the morning time and prepared him for school. And after a breakfast of a thick stale chapati which is not fresh, stale, with a little butter and sugar spread on it, they went to school. Means both of them went to school because the writer was very young. She carried several stale chapatis with her for the village dogs, and at that time she carried with her several stale chapatis for the village dogs. It means grandmother was a kind lady also. She used to feed the village dogs. She fed them stale chapatis. My grandmother always went to school with me because the school was attached to the temple. Now the question rises here, why did the grandmother go to school with him? Because the school was attached to the temple. It was because grandmother was a religious lady. She used to go to the temple, and she left the writer to school, and she herself went to the temple. The priest taught them the alphabet and the morning prayer, while the children sat in the rows on either side of the veranda, singing the alphabet or the prayer in a chorus. His grandmother sat inside reading the scriptures. Scriptures are the words from the holy book. When they both finished, means when grandmother finished her worship and the children finished their studies, they would walk back together. This time the village dogs would meet them at the temple door. Means the village dogs would also wait for them. They followed them to their home, growling and fighting with each other for the chapatis they threw to them. Means the village dog waited for them because it had become the daily routine of the grandmother to feed the dogs. So when both of them start going back to their home. At that time, the village dogs meet them at the street and they would follow them to their home because grandmother used to throw stale chapatis to them. Now, when his parents comfortably settled in the city, they sent someone to call them, means his parents wanted the grandmother and their son, means the narrator, in the city, and this was the turning point in their relationship. A turning point came in the relationship in the friendship of the grandmother and the author when parents called them to city. Up to this time, they were living in the village, and they both were doing all the activities together. They were living together together in a house, and they were spending a lot of time with each other. Now, when they were called to city, a turning point came in their friendship. Although they shared the same room, his grandmother no longer went school with him. Means when he went to city, in the city, there was no choice for the grandmother to go to school with him. So a turning point came in their friendship. Now the writer was going to an English school in a motor car, and there were no dogs in the streets, and she took to feeding sparrows in the courtyard of their city house. Since there were no dogs there in the city, in the streets, so grandmother started feeding sparrows in the courtyard of their city house. So who took the place of dogs in city? Sparrows. As the years rolled by, they saw less of each other, means with the passage of time, the distance increased. For some time, miss in the beginning when they shifted to city, for some time she continued to wake him up and get him ready for school. And whenever the writer came back from school, she used to ask him what the teacher had taught him. He would tell her English words and little things of Western science and learning, the law of gravity, Archimedes' principle, the world being round, etc. Means when his grandmother asked him what he was taught in the school, he would tell her about all the English words and all those things of the Western science and learning and law of gravity, Archimedes' principles, etc. Whatever was taught in the school. And when she listened to it, this made her unhappy, means she would become very unhappy listening to him. She could not help him with his lessons now because he was studying in city school, and the grandmother could not help him in his studies. She did not know about his lessons. She did not believe in the things they taught at the English school and was distressed that there was no teaching about God and the scriptures. What was the cause of sadness of the grandmother? Because she knew that in the city school, the children were not taught about God and the scriptures, about the holy things. And one day when the writer told her that they were being given music lessons, it disturbed her too much, because according to the grandmother, music had a lewd association, means lowly association, means not for the gentle people. It was the monopoly of harlots, means of the bad woman, of the ladies who are not good in character. It was according to her, his grandmother. And beggars, means only music was associated to the harlots and the beggars, and not meant for gentle folk. For the gentle people, it was not meant. So she said nothing, but her silence meant disapproval. She really talked to him after that. When she came to know that music lessons are being given in the school, she became very unhappy. She felt very sad, and she did not like to talk to him after that. And it means she remained quiet for a long time, which showed her disapproval, which means she was not ready to accept it. And after then, she rarely talked to him after that. Then the writer went to university. He was given a room of his own, and the common link of friendship was snapped. Means it was the total break in their friendship. When the writer went to university, the writer started living in a separate room. The common link of friendship, what was the common link of friendship? At least they shared the same room earlier. But now, when the writer was given the room of his own, the common link of friendship was snapped, it was broken. And the grandmother accepted her seclusion with her resignation. Means she accepted her seclusion, loneliness with resignation. Means supposing that now she was no more the part of him. So she accepted her loneliness, and then she rarely left her spinning wheel to talk to anyone. Means she used to keep herself busy with the spinning wheel, and she rarely talked to the people. From sunrise to sunset, she sat by her wheel spinning and reciting prayers. Means it was her daily routine that she, from sunrise to sunset, from morning to evening, she sat by her wheel spinning and reciting prayers. Means all the time she used to spend her time with the spinning wheel and reciting prayer to God. Only in the afternoon she relaxed for a while to feed the sparrows. And what did she do in the afternoon? She used to take a little relax, and she used to relax for some time, and at that time she used to feed the sparrows. While she sat in the veranda breaking the bread into little bits, hundreds of little birds collected around her, creating a veritable bedlam of chirrupings. Means that time hundreds of birds surround her, and they would make a lot of noise, veritable noise, varieties of noise. And means real and bedlam is noisy confusion. They created a lot of confusion. Some came and perched on her legs. Perched means sit. Some of the birds used to sit on her legs, others on her shoulders, some even sat on her head. She smiled but never shooed them away. Means she smiled at them but never tried to drive them away. I used to be the happiest half hour of the day for her. Means feeding the sparrows in the courtyard would be her the happiest half hour of the day for her. Means she used to become very happy feeding the sparrows. When the writer decided to go abroad for further studies, he was sure that his grandmother would become upset, because he would be away for 5 years. And at her age, one could never tell. Means she was too old that nobody could say that she would be living by the time the writer comes back. But his grandmother could, because she had been staying at the same age for last 20 years, as it is told earlier. She was not even sentimental. When she came to know that the writer was going abroad, she did not show her emotions. She came to leave me at the railway station, but did not talk or show any emotion. Her lips moved in prayer, her mind was lost in prayer, her fingers were busy telling the beads of her rosary. Means she was silently praying to God. As I told you that she was a religious woman, so if a question is asked to you, how can you say that she was a religious lady, you will have to describe all these things. Silently she kissed his forehead, and when he left, he cherished the moist imprint as perhaps the last sign of physical contact between them. Means she kissed her grandson, the narrator, and it was a very precious thing for the writer, as it was the last sign of their physical contact between them. But that was not so. After 5 years, when the writer came back home, he met his grandmother at the railway station. She was not looking even a single day older. She still had no time for words. Even then, that time although she clasped him, she held him in her arms. At that time, she was reciting her prayers. Even on the first day of his arrival, her happiest moments were with her sparrows, whom she fed longer, and with frivolous rebukes. Means she used to scold the birds, which were not she used to abuse them also, but these were not the serious abuses. These were the light scoldings. But in the evening time, a change came into her. She did not pray that evening. She collected the women of the neighborhood, got an old drum and started to sing. For several hours he thumped the sagging skins of the dilapidated drum. Dilapidated means falling to pieces, which is not, and skin which has not a very intact skin, and sang of homecoming of warriors, means he started singing song as if she was welcoming the warriors coming back from the war after victory. We had to persuade her to stop to avoid overstraining. That was the first time since I had known her that she did not pray. Means his grandmother was so happy at his homecoming that she took a lot of exertion. She had a lot of exertion, and it was for the first time that the writer had seen her not praying at all. But what was the repercussion? What was the result of that exertion? The next morning she was taken ill. And what happened to her? She got a mild fever, and the doctor told them that it would go. But the grandmother knew it very much. She was very much certain. She told them that her end was near. She said that only a few hours before the close of the chapter of her life, she omitted to pray. She was not going to waste even a single second talking to them. The writer and his family members wanted her to talk to them, but she protested. She did not listen to their protests, and she lay peaceful in bed, praying and telling her beads. And even before they could suspect, her lips stopped moving, and the rosary fell from her lifeless fingers. A peaceful pallor spread on her face, and they knew that she was dead. Pallor means paleness. They lifted her off the bed, and as it is customary, it is the ritual, she was laid on the ground and covered her with a red shroud. Shroud is the covering of the dead body. After a few hours of mourning, showing their sorrow, they left her alone to make arrangements for her funeral. Funeral means the rites of the dead people. In the evening, they went to her room with a crude stretchers and equipment on which the dead body is carried. A stretcher to take her to be cremated. Cremated means to take to the burial and burn the dead body. The sun was setting and had lit her room and veranda with a blaze of golden light. They stopped right up to where she lay dead and stepped wrapped in the red shroud. At that time, thousands of sparrows sat scattered on the floor. There was no chirruping. They were quiet. The birds were also silent. They did not make any kind of chirruping, and they felt sorry for the birds. The writer's mother fetched some bread for them. She broke it into little crumbs, pieces, the way his grandmother used to do, and threw it to them. But the sparrows did not take any notice of the bread. And when the grandmother's corpse was taken off from there, the birds also flew. And the next morning, the sweeper swept the breadcrumbs into the dustbin. Means even the birds mourned the death of the grandmother. So this is all about the text. You have come to know about the character of the grandmother as a religious lady and as a kind lady. Now you have to complete the exercises which is given at the back of the chapter, at the end of the chapter. Thank you and have a nice day.